Gwen, do you have confidence in the federal investigation that's going on now?
Oh, yes, I have much more confidence in the federal investigation than I did in the local prosecution.
You believe your son's civil rights were violated?
Yes, they were. Yes, they definitely were. Because if Eric Garner was a white man in Suffolk County doing the same thing that he was doing, even if he would have been caught selling cigarettes that day, they would have given him a summons, and he wouldn't have lost his life that day. I believe that 100%.
It's interesting, though, because you talk to, again, in these polls, you see white people don't view it that way, by and large. They don't see it as issue.
Because it's
It's
not
no
happening
need
to
to.
them.
It's no need for them to view it that way.
So they don't quite get it. They don't quite understand. They think it's a small group of African Americans that's complaining.
Yeah.
Oh, what are they complaining about now?
You hear that from people?
Oh, yeah.
All the time.
People say that all the
social
time.
media.
But what are they complaining about now? What are they protesting about now? What
So
are
to
they
them,
marching
what do you
about
say to
now?
that person?
To that person, until it happens to them and in their family, then they'll understand
They don't get it.
the walk. They don't understand what we're going through. They don't understand the life, and they don't understand what we're fighting against.
Yeah.
I don't even think the government quite gets it.
Yeah.
Until they walk in your shoes on a daily basis.
Well, I think that this is shedding light to what's going on.
Yes.
This is not something that's new. It's been happening. But it's just bringing light to what's been happening. It's bringing it to the forefront, and that's why it's so much conversations. That's why it's so many rallies and protests, because people are now realizing. If you look at those footage in New York, it's not just African Americans.
It's everybody.
So it's not just about
Everybody.
African American rights. It's about human rights.